All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the January 9th Apex Planning Board meeting to order. Please bow your heads for the invocation. Father God, thank you for another day and the opportunity to serve the town of Apex. Give us the guidance we need to do what is right and best for this town. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Diane, do we have any items of information today?
The only item of information I have is that we do not have new appointments for chair and vice chair. You all had made your recommendation, but that has not gone to council yet. So what we do is it just continues how it has previously been appointed. And then any of you whose appointments were up at the end of December, you will continue to serve until and unless there's a new appointment made. So as soon as I get more information, I'll let you all know, but no worries, you can all serve today in the capacity that you've been appointed up until council makes a decision going forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to discuss public comment. The purpose of public comment is to allow the public to speak on items that do not appear in the agenda under public hearings. Any member of the public wishing to speak on the public hearing items will be called at the appropriate time later in the agenda. If you've not done so already, please sign in on my right, your left, for the appropriate item that is going to be discussed. If there are more than 3 people who want to speak for a particular item, I'm going to ask that we limit that time to 9 minutes total and have the collective group not repeat items that have been discussed previously. Say you agree and then bring up a new topic. There's also the YouTube channel for those watching online. Thank you for joining us. We'll move on then to item number 1, the consent for the December 12th, 2022 minutes. I'm guessing everybody's reviewed them. Are there any changes or do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Tim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Daniel, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 1. Lauren is going to talk to us about potential rezoning case 22CZ23, the Yellow Bridge PUD amendment.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
This is rezoning case 22CZ23, Yellow Bridge PUD Amendment. These properties are located in this general area, west of 540 and south of US 64 in our ETJ, and adjacent to Chanticleer Drive. The properties are north of Stratford at Abington, west of Abington, east of Sweetwater, and south of Towns at Westford. The properties are currently zoned Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. The adjacent zonings are to the north, Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning and Wake County Highway District, east, Rural Residential and Medium Density, to the south, Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning, and to the west, Rural Residential. The applicant is proposing to rezone the properties of Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning. And before I move forward, the intent is to amend an architectural zoning condition. So just keep that in mind as I go through this proposed rezoning. The 2045 land use map designates the subject properties as medium density residential and commercial services at this location. The proposed rezoning to Plan Unit Development Conditional Zoning is consistent with that land use map designation. As I mentioned, the intent of this PUD amendment is to amend rezoning case 22CZ06 Yellow Bridge PUD in the following way. The current residential district design guideline number 6 for single-family detached homes reads, garages on the front facade of a home that faces the street shall not exceed 30% of the total width of the house and garage together. The following residential this district design guideline for number 6 for the single-family detached homes shall be amended to garages on the front facade of the homes that face the street shall not exceed 50% of the total width of the house and garage together. So the minor change is this language right here, homes that face and exceed 50%. So it went from 30 to 50%. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on October 24th. The neighborhood meeting report is in your packet, that's attached. A letter of impact from Wake County Public School Systems was not requested for this rezoning, as this rezoning is a PUD amendment for an architectural zoning condition. This rezoning was also exempt from meeting with the EAB per Unified Development Ordinance 2.19A2. The proposed rezoning is to amend a zoning condition for architectural standards. The 2045 land use map designates the subject properties as medium-density residential and commercial services. The proposed rezoning is to planning and development conditional zoning is consistent with that land use map designation. Approval of the proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will provide additional flexibility with architectural design with no other changes to the approved PUD standards. The proposed changes are generally consistent with the approved residential developments to the south and to the east. Planning staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning.
Good, Lauren?
Thank you.
Any questions for Lauren? All right. Did the applicant want to speak?
Oopsie, sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Skinner and members of the Planning Board. I'm Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh is my address, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Lennar Homes, who's the builder and developer of this project. And the project might sound familiar to you because it was just before you in August of last year, the PUD case, the overall rezoning, and then it was approved by council in October. And so as we were moving through getting our subdivision plan together to submit to the town, we noticed that just the single architectural condition was an issue. And you may recall that during the overall rezoning case, we had an ongoing dialogue with the Abington folks. And towards the end of the case, we agreed to the elevation you see on your screen here. And what that basically was a higher quality home that would have, real foundations, crawl spaces, and a lot of the architectural features you see here. What we didn't know was that the new elevations were inconsistent with this one architectural condition, which says that garages shall not exceed 30% of the total width of the house and garage together. So the only change to the whole rezoning case that was approved in October that's before you tonight is this one condition here that'll change that number 30 to 50. And that's consistent with the elevation on the screen and the elevations and conditions that were agreed to with the neighbors. And so it's a really narrow request. It's just this one change. All the other conditions are staying the exact same. And so we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
So if I understand properly, we're going to go from a 2-car garage to a 3-car garage for this elevation.
Not necessarily. Some will still be 2-car garages, but they just, like if you can see on the screen here.
So what you show is that a golf cart parking?
Well,
to the
this
far right?
particular one has 3 cars, but they won't all necessarily have 3 cars.
Okay.
But they'll be subject to this condition. So if you just look at the front of the home, you couldn't, this elevation doesn't meet the 30%, which is pretty narrow. And so that's really the only reason for the PUD amendment.
Yeah, I do have a question. If I recall correctly, the council approved this, but planning board did not. Is that my recollection correct?
I don't believe so. Well, it may have been a 3-3 vote. I don't know, Lauren, do you remember the vote at planning board?
I do not remember what month it was.
It was planning board was August, and then council was in October.
So while you're looking that up, I do recall many conversations with the neighbors, and a room full of neighbors.
Right.
A room full of neighbors here with us. Looking at this elevation,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to discern whether it was 30 or 50%,
Right.
myself. So I'm curious as to whether neighbors understood that this may be 50% versus 30%. And I
Right.
understand that while they're looking at that, they may, kind of like what Chair Skinner did, "Oh, that kind of looks like this and that kind of looks like that." But actually seeing that it was 30% prior, I'm wondering if neighbors might have some concern that, that this was eventually agreed upon understanding that it was going to be 30%, and now
Right.
that is a significant
Yep,
change.
so we had the neighborhood meeting for this specific amendment.
Right,
And we went through and explained exactly what I just explained to you all, is how we got here. And the, really honestly, just oversight that we missed that, they didn't match. And they understood that, and really, what we heard from a few of the neighbors, I mean, I can't speak for all 200 or however many there are in Abington, but was that when we were talking with them about these elevations, that's what they were really focused on was, what's it going to look like? And when we showed them the elevations, that's what they liked towards the end of the case, that ultimately made them comfortable, or at least comfortable enough not to oppose it. And so we did show them, and this isn't the only elevation in the PUD text, there's also this elevation too. So the requirement really acts as a minimum, and so some houses might meet the 30%, but not all of them. So the two elevations in the PUD text are this one and the one I just had on the screen. So there will be some variation in the single-family detached homes, but to build this specific one, we needed the PUD amendment. So,
excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I did find the vote, it was actually on July 11th of 2022, and the vote was 4-3, recommending approval.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the candidate? the
I
applicant?
have one question. So this increase is because you're taking from a slab-on grade foundation to a crawl space?
That's not the only reason. It's really just the width.
The width.
So even if we had a slab on grade house, it would still have to meet the 30%, which would be difficult really either way. It was just explaining that this change allows us to build the houses and elevations we agreed to with the neighbors. So, yeah.
All right, so no more questions for the applicant. I'll open up the public comment section. Did we get any emails on this one?
We only received the email from the applicant,
Okay.
and to my knowledge.
Anybody here in the audience that's not already signed in looking to speak on this item? Thank you. Matthew Carpenter, Tucker Ennis.
They're with
Jeff
us.
Roach,
The
Joe
next few
Matthews.
names,
Yep.
they're just our people.
All right. So no one else from the public to talk? Okay. Well, I guess we can close the public comment section then. And bring it back to the board for discussion or possible motion.
I would like to motion to approve the request.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. So Alyssa, Steve. It was Steve. Motion from Alyssa and a second from Steve. All in favor, say aye. Any opposing? All right, that passes unanimously. CZ 22 CZ 23. All right, item number 2 is gonna be with Diane to discuss potential rezoning case 22 CZ 24, the Apex Gateway Phase 1 project.
Just give me 30 seconds to
All right.
finish this planning. I'm doing everything myself today, so
No
just want to
worries.
finish that one real quick.
Thank you.
wanted to talk on the last one and didn't sign up.
Okay.
My name on that.
Oh, you did? Did
Yeah.
you not read it?
Joe Matthews?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Um,
opened it up
Can you
and
bring the
you didn't
applicant
move.
back in? Do you all wanna reopen it so that he can speak?
Do we need to take the vote over and everything
Yeah,
as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I need someone to make a motion to.
I make a motion to reopen
22
Re-
CZ 23.
22 ZZ 23.
All right.
And a vote to do
All in
that.
favor of reopening 22 CZ 23?
Aye.
No opposing? All right. Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, good afternoon. I won't take too much time. I own the strip of land in between Abington and the Yellow Bridge development. That's 8 acres of land. So in the original design, it was supposed to be, if you look at the original design from earlier last year, it was supposed to be detached, single-family homes back into my property. My purpose in the law, it may take a few more years to build some custom homes in the land that I have. So when I saw it was all single-family detached with a good width, I think 60 or 60 feet width, I believe the lots. So I was okay with that. Then it became like single-family detached slash attached. So the builder could bring either single-family or townhomes. And in the final design, it is all 3-story townhomes, very narrow townhomes, all back into the property. I think there are like 14, 15 townhomes back into the property. So I feel that putting all those townhomes back into my property will affect the property value, and nobody wants to be in $1 million plus home back into a 3-story townhome. So that's my concern, just wanted to express it. I don't know if anything can be done, or, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr.
Thank you.
Carpenter, is there anything you can address in regards to that?
Sure, So, Matthew Carpenter again. We spoke throughout the rezoning case with Mr. Matthews. I think it took about a full year to get through from the initial pre-application meetings to a final approval in October. And throughout that time, we spoke with Mr. Matthews a couple times. Lauren was really good about sending us emails from him saying that he had initial plans that he wanted to review with us, and so we asked for those several times, and never saw really a sketch plan for Mr. Matthews. But we have been. I know Lennar's been working with him on access to his property, on coordinating exactly where access is going to line up to ensure that he has access to a street to get out to US 64. So I think those conversations are still active. As far as the property value impact, we don't think that his property values will be impacted negatively, and that's not really what's here tonight, because as approved, the PUD case already allows the site to be developed. So the only thing before you is the amendment. But we're happy to follow up with Mr. Matthews. We hadn't heard his concerns about property values really until tonight. So we'll certainly follow up with him and continue to coordinate his access and make sure that whatever plans he has will work with ours. So, thank you.
Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I just want to correct Mr. Carpenter that I had a meeting with the, who is the Lennar chief of the division president?
Troy?
Yeah, with the Troy a few months ago. So I raised my issue. He was telling no, we can't because we need density. So I did raise the property value, all this, what you were telling me, I raised all that. So it's not the first time.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments on this particular item? All right, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for further discussion, and I guess a possible second motion.
I would motion again to approve the request.
All right, Alyssa is going to motion a second time, and do I have a second?
Second.
Steve, all right, I have a second from Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? All right, 22 CZ 23 passes unanimously. All right, Diane, I guess let's discuss rezoning case 22 CZ 24, the Apex Gateway.
All right, good evening. I am pinch hitting for Amanda, and she did a very nice staff report for you all, so I will go through the items that are most pertinent. As you may recall, this came through previously as Project Real. It's now called Apex Gateway Phase 1. And it is zoned light industrial conditional zoning. And the purpose of this rezoning to change zoning conditions is that there is a current condition that requires all existing trees greater than 18 inches in diameter that are removed by site development to be replanted, replaced by planting a 1.5-inch caliper native tree. This commitment was made prior to the applicant coming in with a tree survey of the properties, and without the survey, the applicant underestimated the number of trees that would have to meet this condition. So due to the number of existing trees 18 inches in diameter and greater that would be impacted by the proposed development, the applicant would have to remove existing trees less than 18 inches in diameter in order to have adequate room to meet the replanting requirements on site. And the applicant has little opportunity to plant trees elsewhere in town. Therefore, the applicant is now proposing to amend the zoning condition to increase the size of the trees required to be replaced from 18 inches to 24 inches. And additionally, they've also proposed to replace at least 140 trees that are 18 inches in diameter. The change to the zoning condition is shown on page 3 of your staff report. It reads, existing trees greater than 24 inches in diameter and at least 140 existing trees greater than 18 inches in diameter that are removed by site development shall be replaced by planting a 1.5-inch caliper native tree from the Town of Apex Design and Development Manual, either on site or an alternative location approved by town planning staff above and beyond the standard UDO requirements. I would direct your attention to page 5 where the Environmental Advisory Board recommendation is located. At the time they went to the advisory board in October, the request for consideration was just the replacement of 24-inch caliper trees without the additional 140 18-inch caliper. And planning staff did recognize that going from 18 to 24 perhaps was a little too far, and we asked them to look at how many of the 18-inch they could potentially replace, and they came up with 140. So when the EAB reviewed this, they only looked at the 24-inch replacement, and they did discuss the value of keeping the existing recommendation for replacing 18-inch hardwood trees. Both staff and the project representative explained to the board that there was difficulty in having sufficient space to replace the trees on site. And after discussing the practical difficulties, there was a motion made to change the requirement from 18-inch diameter to 24-inch. And there was a vote. It was split. It was 5-4 and 1 against. And again, after that meeting, staff did talk to the applicant about adding the additional 140 trees that would replace the 18-inch caliper trees. You did receive public comment in the form of an email from Mr. McKeever. He had 4 issues that he brought up. They're all stormwater related. 3 of them are site plan issues. They are not rezoning issues. We had our senior engineer for water resources, Robert Patterson, reply to those concerns. And then the 4th concern was in regard to a recommendation that you all had made at the original rezoning. You all had recommended that the Jordan Lake draft rules be implemented, and you had made that recommendation to council. The applicant did not choose to include that condition, and town council did approve the original rezoning without that condition. As you know, town council cannot impose conditions. They have to take all the conditions that are offered by a developer at face value and decide are they going to accept those conditions or are they going to turn the project down? And they did decide on the whole it was beneficial to approve the project rather than to impose the draft rules. I did want to point out that even though the town has a goal of having the Jordan Lake rules be implemented, state law currently prohibits the town from implementing these, and this is in regard to Jordan Lake nutrient loading targets. That's why only an applicant voluntarily putting these rules on themselves is the only way that we can get these rules to apply. So, hope that is clear. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We did not have anyone sign up to speak today, and the applicant, they're here. If you have any questions for them.
Diane, can you elaborate a little bit on the 140 existing trees? What is that? Give me an idea of how many trees we're talking, and
I'm gonna have to have the
Okay.
applicant. I think
Yep.
they have the numbers for you, and I'm sorry, I just found out today that I was gonna have to present
no,
to you.
thank you.
But I think that,
Amanda's probably listening.
yeah, you probably,
Or not.
but the applicant should
Thank
be
you.
able to give you that information.
Any other questions for Diane before we move to the applicant? All right, the applicant care to speak?
Good afternoon. I want to thank the board for your time. My name is Walker Gorham. I'm the Triangle Market Lead for Beacon Partners, based in Raleigh, and I'm the development manager for Project Real Apex Gateway. As was outlined, I think the principal issue that came up after we met with EAB, agreed to their proposed tree replacement conditions, as well as to their request to meet the dark sky conditions, was we had yet to receive the tree survey back, just given the scale of the site. And so we made the initial commitment to replace at 18 inches in good faith, in addition to the dark sky criteria with respect to some of the lighting, environmental impact considerations. When we received the tree survey, we got confirmation that our proposed disturbance area was approximately 84 acres of the 132 total acres. The intent was to try to preserve approximately 50 acres of undisturbed area on the west side of the site, or closest to NC 751. And when we had our tree consultant, North America Landscape, review the tree survey and ultimately propose a replanting exhibit, the challenge became that we would have to increase our limit of disturbance by approximately 8 acres to address the replacement criteria if we were at 18 inches. And so, specific to your question, Vice Chair, the disturbance area identified approximately 1,100 trees that were 18 inches or greater, and an additional 150 that were 24 inches or greater. And so ultimately, the challenge and the reason for coming back is that we don't think it's environmentally responsible to have to clear cut an additional 8 acres of natural habitat when you consider both the fact that we would be clear cutting hundreds of smaller trees to then just replant imported, harvested trees, as well as disturbing the natural habitat. And that was ultimately I think a view that was acknowledged by the Environmental Advisory Board. We also, of note, did coordinate with staff to try to identify town-owned land to meet the obligation of planting those trees elsewhere. And I think Amanda confirmed that the town, over the last several years, has only planted 100 trees in total on town-owned property, and there wasn't any identified need for those plantings. And so ultimately, we're prepared to honor our commitment. We just don't think it's the responsible thing to do to increase the disturbance area, increase the disturbance to natural habitat, to then purchase and import harvested trees to do so. What we did confirm from North American Landscapes is that the site can accommodate approximately 300 additional trees predominantly around existing, or on the periphery of existing buffers and on our planned stormwater retention ponds. So we have agreed to the additional 140 trees above the 24 inches. And so, as Diane acknowledged, originally when we met back in September with the EAB, we were proposing to just increase from the 18 inches to 24, which would support planting 150 trees. We've increased that to approximately 290, or an additional 140. We think we can safely plant those per our consultants, our landscape consultants, without cannibalization. And any more than that, again, will require more clear cutting, which we're just trying to avoid. So hopefully that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Sir.
Seeing that we've had no one signed up for public hearing, I guess we don't need to open nor close that. Is that right, Diane?
I think you still have to open it and
We'll have
close
to open it? All right, well, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here in the audience? No, all right, and there's no one signed up, so I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and possible motion.
I have a question. So this, item number 2 is just referring to the trees. Has nothing to do with stormwater for the email, that we received.
That's
correct?
correct, yes.
Yes.
I myself is in favor of preservation, especially the natural habitat. I'd like to make a motion.
I'll
to-
second.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
Sarah, if I hear you right, you're making a motion to approve?
yes.
All right, I have a motion from Sarah. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second from Tina. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? All right, rezoning case 22CZ24 passes unanimously. All right, item number 3. I believe Shelley was gonna talk about this one, case 22CZ25, but I believe we need to recuse
Yes, sir.
Keith on this one.
I'd like to recuse myself from zoning case 22.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we didn't have anyone sign up, so if you wouldn't mind, I
All
can
right.
explain what's going on, and you won't need to be recused.
Okay.
We'll continue.
Thank you.
We'll re-advertise it. So this one, since no one's here, staff would like to request that it not be heard tonight. We need to re-advertise it both for planning board and town council due to a missing address on one of the notifications that went out. And so we have to re-notify it to everyone anyway. And so we will start all over for the February meetings. So we do not need to hear it tonight, and that means that it will not be heard at town council on January 24th. And there'll be all new notices mailed to the correct address list for the neighbors, and it'll be reposted on the town's website and downstairs. Did I miss anything? Nope. So, yeah, we can,
Good. So item number 3 will be delayed until February.
yeah, and it'll be re-advertised.
All right. I guess the only other item is new business, and honestly, I'd like to make a motion to strike new business of, and, just discuss it a little further amongst ourselves, or even look to the town council's legal to find out where we are as far as constitutional conversations, Diane.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion from myself and a second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? All right. One more actionable item would be an adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Tim, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tina seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, then we will close the meeting. Thank you.